I just want to start out by saying thank you to Sandro, wherever he might be roaming about, and the rest of the team who put this together, and for inviting me in to share a little bit of my knowledge and experience. So my background really is in community health education. That's what I went to school for, what I'm trained in. But more recently, I've teamed up with a really amazing group of people from all around the world that are on a mission to inspire healthy living. So that's kind of how I got tied in with this group. And currently, I own my own whole food nutrition business. I work part-time for the Aspen Police Department. I'm a mom. I kind of juggle a lot of different things, but this is where my passion lies, is in helping people kind of find the path that works for them from a health perspective. And I wanted to just give each of you a round of applause for really investing in yourself this month and putting the time and energy in. I know we all have really crazy, hectic lives these days, so the fact that you've been here and are following through really, I think you're on the right track, and I'm sure that moving forward you're going to see some great changes in your life. And a lot of the things I'm going to talk about tonight, I think it's fitting that I'm going last because it kind of sums up a lot of the ideas you've heard over the past month. So it might not be a lot of new information, but I'm hoping it provides kind of a nice bubble to take it all home in, because healthy living is something that really used to be a lot simpler. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, we had a garden, we played outside. Like I can remember eating carrots right out of the garden. I can remember, we weren't allowed to come in except for an hour at lunchtime to eat and watch Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, and then we had to go back outside again. We drank water straight from the hose. We were kind of little hooligans, but at the end of the day, guess what? We were tired, and we went to bed. And I think you could say the same, for adults. If we look at our grandparents in past generations, they did a lot of similar things. They had manual labor jobs. They came home tired. It looked a little different, unfortunately, than today, where these whole foods we've been talking about aren't the staple. For a lot of people, it's convenient foods, it's prepackaged foods, fast food. Thankfully, we don't have as much fast food in our valley, but it's still here. All those great games outdoors are getting replaced with screen time, video games, things like that. And, we heard Sarah talk in the first week about sugary drinks. Those used to be a treat. I don't know about for you guys. On Sundays, we would get to share a root beer between the three of us kids with Dad, and that was in a Kit Kat. And it was a special treat, but today those sugary drinks and things have become a staple for people because we're tired in a new way. Not a physically exhausted way, but emotionally we're drained. We just kind of have this almost like a low, I wouldn't say depression, but we're just more lethargic than we used to be. So it's changed a little bit over the years. So again, you guys are probably all over these four things because you're here tonight. You've been doing this challenge with Sandro and the rest of us. But just to kind of take a second to reflect on how you're taking care of yourself. Are you eating the real foods, the things that Dr. Feinsinger's been drilling into us for the past 3 weeks? The exercise that he just got done talking about. Drinking regular old water. There are a lot of fancy drinks out there these days, but our bodies really need water. And sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night. And sleep is something we haven't talked a lot about this month, but there are a lot of really amazing things that happen while we sleep. And scientists, even today, don't truly understand everything that's going on while we sleep, but we do know that our body is doing a lot of repair work. Our hormones are able to kind of get back into the places they need to be and stabilize in our body, which helps with maintaining weight and a variety of other things. Just really amazing things happen while we sleep. So just a little self-check as we kind of get into this discussion tonight. So unfortunately, we have a couple trends that are happening in our world that are really, even for people who are cognizant of their health and want to make improvements, are kind of setting us back a step without us really having much of a say about it. And the first one of those are environmental toxins that are constantly increasing. So even though we live in this beautiful place here in Colorado, the water we're drinking, the air we're breathing, the lotions we're putting on our skin, the food we're putting in our body, everything contains some level of toxicity. So that's something I really want to focus on in our discussion tonight. So that's the first thing that to me is very alarming. They've done studies where they're looking at umbilical cord blood of babies and how many toxins are in there from day one in babies. I mean, hundreds, if not thousands of toxins are showing up in umbilical cord blood. And that's when kids are getting their start. So to me, that's alarming as a relatively new mom. And then the other trend is that, as we've been hearing, our food quality is decreasing. So you walk into the grocery store, and if you look at City Market, it's probably 75% of the pre-made packaged things, has all of this stuff in it, emulsifiers, flavor enhancers. I don't know if you can even read or understand some of the ingredients. To me, it's really food products. They're not truly food anymore. So those two things are really setting us back. And then even when we get to the point of, raising our consciousness, understanding, the things we've been taught about whole food nutrition, we're still at a disadvantage. We live in a country that's greatly over-farming soils. Nutrients in our soils are being depleted. So right away, our produce is at a disadvantage. And then top that off with the fact that, you could live in Florida and be getting oranges in your grocery store from California. And those, if you think about the banana, it wasn't nice and yellow and ripe when they picked it off that tree. It was very green. It was picked before all of that nutrition and those phytonutrients were able to develop. It was picked off of that plant, put on a truck, a ship, who knows how it got here, a plane, and it maybe took 3-4 days, maybe a week to get to the grocery store and then into your mouth. And we're learning that, within 5 days even, up to 50% of that nutrient content is depleting in our fruits and vegetables. So it's frustrating because even as we're trying to do the right thing, we still have to cram more in. I mean, when I was a kid, I think it was 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables was the recommended amount. And now if you take a look at your fist, and I want you to physically do this because I feel like the visual connection is important, 7 to 13 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. And if you're an athlete, if you're someone who's really physical, keep counting. That number goes up even more. And I don't know about you. You don't have to raise your hand, but who in here ate 7 to 13 fruits and vegetables today? I have a picture of what that looks like physically, and maybe if you're on a yeah, exactly. If you are able to do a fully plant-based diet, you might be in that the 10% of Americans who actually do that on a daily basis. So
is that like 6 fruits and 6 vegetables, or?
Well, it depends. If you eat broccoli but only a couple pieces, it wouldn't be quite a serving. So, and the breakdown between fruits and veggies, I'm not sure exactly what it is, but veggies are a little more than fruit. 7 to 13 of either is going to be good, but a variety. Variety of color, variety of, fruit and veggies. And so this is not something new. We know, I think all of us probably know we should be eating more fruits and veggies. We've been learning about that, we get it. And it's something that Americans and the world in general have recognized too. They see, hey, we have deficiencies, we're missing things. So a lot of, it's easy for our mind to go to this place of, well, let's supplement, let's take a vitamin. If I'm low in, not getting the vitamin C from the orange, I'll get it from a pill, I'll get it from something. But in reality, the body doesn't recognize that. You don't find 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C in that form in nature, or whatever, plug in whatever you want. It's cold and flu season, so I just use that one as an example. Whereas if you look at, the humble apple, an apple a day keeps the doctor away, the saying. This is a list, you can't see it on this screen, but it's 400 different phytonutrients that scientists have been able to identify in the apple, but they actually think there's more like 10,000. So if you think about trying to replicate that in a multivitamin that maybe has like 20 different things, it just doesn't compute. It's not the same thing as whole foods. So it's absolutely true, we do have a deficiency. It's not a vitamin deficiency, but it's a whole food deficiency. And again, not new. At this point, that has probably sunk in for you, but sometimes, for me anyways, I'm a very visual person, so kind of making these connections is important, I believe. And I remember actually Dr. Feinsinger kind of using a similar example during the first week when he was talking about why plants are important. If we think about, an apple, and you slice that apple in half, it starts to get brown. And really what that's showing is oxidation occurring. Those cells are becoming damaged, maybe they're dying, whatever's happening to them. But if you took half of an apple and squirted lemon juice on it, ta-da, that doesn't happen because that lemon has a ton of antioxidants in it. So the same thing is happening on the inside of our bodies. So our cells, from all those toxins we were talking about in our environment and our food, our cells are constantly getting bombarded by different, they call them mutagenic oxidants inside of our body. And so if we're not doing anything, we get aging and we get disease, which is kind of like the browning of the apple. But the great message here is that there is hope. We know that by cramming more and more antioxidants into our body, we can combat a lot of these things. We can combat a lot of the chronic diseases and the aging. Oh my gosh, I know plenty of people that have been on plant-based diets for 20, 30 years, and they're the youngest looking people I've ever met in my life. I walk into a room full of them and I want to be them. I'm like, might be a little superficial, but hey, who doesn't want to look younger longer? It's not a bad thing. And obviously this is contributing. I mean, we don't need, again, no raise of hands, but I guarantee we can all think of probably a handful of people in our lives that have cancer, cardiovascular disease, arthritis. I mean, any number of things that are, happening at the cellular level. But we're here to talk about weight loss. So that, obviously we want to all avoid disease, and, aging slower would be nice. But what we're here to talk about is how this interacts in our bodies when it comes to managing a healthy weight. And I really didn't understand this until the last few years of my life, and it's been very eye-opening for me. But this top half we'll focus on first. So this is, I would say, a typical American approach to no fault of, not pointing any fingers, not saying it's bad, but we all are walking around with these little bubbles. Those are to represent toxins in our bodies just by being on this earth. That's what happens. And our bodies are really smart. So our liver is kind of the first line of defense to try and get rid of toxins in our bodies and get rid of those. But it gets pretty overloaded pretty quickly. So it does something really smart. The body starts trapping those different toxins in fat cells because it keeps the toxins from being able to do a ton of damage to our internal organs, our vital organs. They still can do some damage, but so it's good. It's protecting our body, but the byproduct of that is then, we're having, enlarged fat cells or just more fat cells than we would like to have. So it's kind of a catch-22. And, you might have experienced, have anybody in here experienced the yo-yo effect, of losing weight and then gaining it back? Because a lot of times, and again, with great intentions, we decide we're going to start eating fewer calories, we're going to start exercising a whole lot more, and guess what? We lose weight, and it feels really good. It looks really good. We're happy. But most of the time, we're not doing that with the proper amount of nutrition in our bodies. So these little bubbles, there are no fewer bubbles than there were before. So the second you get off of the kick you're on, whether it was a 10-day cleanse or even a month-long thing, I used to experience it. I was an athlete at a collegiate level, and in between seasons, I would gain 15 pounds because I was not putting the amount of fruits and vegetables into my body it needed. So the second I stopped, being in a weight room every day or practicing every day, my weight went back up because I wasn't doing anything to really get under the surface of what was going on. So again, it's great that you've all learned this information about how to implement more plants into your diet, because what happens is instead of being stuck in this yo-yo, which is frustrating, we've all been there, you work so hard and you get here, and to have that all go away 6 months later or 6 weeks later can bring us down. But when we are able to move and put more plants in our bodies, I like to do it with a community and a group called the Shred 10, which just really helps me keep on track and reset every month. But it's a way to follow a lot of the guidelines that Dr. Feinsinger is talking about, because that is what allows our body to naturally get rid of toxins. And again, a sweet byproduct of that is we don't need all of those extra fat cells because they don't have the same job to do. It allows us to, kind of get rid of that fat. And I'm referring a lot because the first week when you were giving your presentation, I was like, yes, it makes so much sense. Dr. Feinsinger didn't feel like he had any weight to lose. And I would say the same. I was pretty healthy 3 years ago when I started implementing this in my life. And I am 15 pounds lighter, and I thought I was already, I was doing triathlons, I was active. I didn't really think there was weight to lose. And I'm this person now, because the maintenance that comes along with that when you continually flood your body with plants is really the secret sauce. That's the magic. That's breaking that cycle of frustration that so many of us are used to. And not only are we maintaining a healthier weight, but all of that disease and aging that we were talking about earlier tends to lessen. Am I going to say you're never going to get sick or you're never going to have any disease? Obviously can't guarantee that because most of us have lived a majority of our life very toxic and very, kind of getting by. I like to think of it, Sandra used a similar metaphor early on in the presentations, but plants are like putting high-grade premium oil into your car. I think we can all, who in here, we all know we're supposed to go, 3,000 miles on an oil change? 6,000 if it's synthetic or something like that. Has anyone ever gone over on their oil change? I am guilty, it drives my husband crazy, but it is not uncommon for me to go 1,000 miles over on my oil change. And guess what? My car still runs. It runs for the time being, but I know if I keep doing that over and over, skipping oil changes, that eventually my bills are going to go up, things are going to start to clunk, I'm going to hear the weird noises, I might get stranded on I-70 in a snowstorm. Not generally good. Whereas if I'm getting that oil change, obviously my car is going to run better for its life, and our bodies are the same way. You could not eat fruits and vegetables for days, weeks, months, and you could live, depending on your definition of living, but you could live. But over time, that's obviously going to have a compounding effect on what's happening in your body. And I'm here because I want to see people live really long, happy, vibrant lives and not just get by. I think there's a lot more out there as we embrace plants. So that's just a good mental picture for me of the oil change and putting that really good oil into our cars all the time. And that is high quality fruits and vegetables, variety of colors. You've heard all of this before. I'm just trying to bring it full circle. And this is just an example of kind of variety. Obviously, good nutrition helps everything. You start putting more plants in your body and it's going to help in any, myriad of areas. Because it really is a lifestyle. Everything we've been talking about for the last month is how do we create, a lifestyle around this that's something we can maintain. And I love to grow food. I hate going into the grocery store right now and buying lettuce because you have to sit there and look through the containers or pick through the heads of lettuce to find one that's not slimy and gross in the middle of winter. I love opening people's eyes to the power of plants. I used to honestly laugh at people when they even suggested that I stop eating meat. And I would say I'm like a 75-25 person. My family, we hunt, we eat wild game, that is part of our diet, but embracing this has really been a game changer for me, and I think we could all agree that banking on health insurance and banking on those types of things being around for us really isn't a safe bet these days. We truly have to take our health into our own hands, and I think you're all doing that, so I applaud you for being here, and hopefully some of this hit home with you. I'm happy to stick around afterwards if anyone wants to chat more, but that's all I've got tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.